really never see the light of day except for maybe just some snippets or anything, but nothing controversial will ever be said and recorded. But today we're talking about, oh, and don't forget the chat. Please don't forget the chat. Jump in the chat, do whatever you want to do and talk in the chat. But today we're talking about technicians, and we're talking specifically about technician career paths. Now, it's very interesting because career paths are something that aren't documented very well in the car business, right? I mean, you typically, somebody throws you a pen or pencil and says, get to work. Right? And that's, and you know, if you catch the pen, then you can stay the rest of the day. So, I mean, there's nothing planned. We don't do a good job. And then nobody knows where they're going after that. You don't know what you're working for. And we're terrible at it. We are absolutely atrocious at it. Some of us, and typically like we run into, some of us on this call actually do a pretty good job with it. But most don't. And who does it hurt? It hurts just about everybody that you can think of, but it really hurts the techs. And something that Sarge brought up in the chat was, you know, teams that don't have career paths learn at the expense of the dealership. And if you're following that, if you follow that process all the way to the logical conclusion, it's actually at the expense of the customer. And there will not come back because of this on the job training. Now, unsupervised on the job training. My co-host today is Joshua Taylor, the voice of technicians everywhere, and pretty much the data guy when it comes to techs. And he's been able to capture emotions with data and how the techs are feeling and why they're feeling that way, but not get lost in the emotion of it, which I think is fantastic. And career paths, I think, have a lot to do with that. Joshua, the floor is yours. Thank you so much for joining me today.
I appreciate that. And I continue to come every Sunday, even when we're hungover, because these are the only people that I really want to spend time with. So love y'all. Thank you very much for showing up. Thank you, crew, for showing up. I see all my boys down there.
Yeah, appreciate you guys coming by.
Especially considering Richard's 2 hours behind. So it's not 8 a.m. It is 6 a.m. So he had to be up early. So real quick and dirty. I did this a long time ago. Just a quick share screen. If I shared it properly.
You did.
I mapped this out almost 2 years ago and forgot very stupidly to label who it is that I found. But this particular set of jobs, I found somebody in all of these jobs who was a technician at some stage, whether it was a year, 5 years, more, whatever the case may be. I found somebody in automotive who was one of these things. Now, specifically speaking, general maintenance specialist, mobile, they're still technicians. But the stuff above, warranty administrators, warranty auditors, fleet managers, college professors, group directors, they have all had some form of mechanic training. They've been on the bench. They fixed something, whether it was flat rate or not, is irrelevant. But at the end of the day, I found somebody that was there. This is a problem because during my coaching, which I haven't done a whole lot of coaching in the last three to 4 months, but up until that point, about 150 technicians, almost none of them knew that it was physically possible for them to get there. Now, that is not to say that we want necessarily at year one to be coaching young mechanics to realize that they're going to be a national director someday, but understanding that it is very possible for them to be so. So if they, after 10 years of turning a wrench, maybe they start going down the career path towards becoming a national director of a brand or a group or whatever the case may be. You know, when you shoot for the stars, maybe you'll hit the moon. But without any formal written process to go through what it is to be a mechanic and then what it is to do what's next, they have no idea it's even possible or even think that it's possible. The challenge is without that, they then become bitter. Most of them who had no concept of being able to leave the bench to do something with what they've learned for the last 10, 15 years, almost all of them are bitter or resentful or hateful or negative or pessimistic in some way, shape, or form. The coaching helped alleviate some of that, but for the most part, they stayed in a negative headspace on a regular basis. Even now, after a year, I've done some check-ins with some of them, and they've used the coaching stuff that I helped them with. They continue to have to use it heavily on a daily basis to try to get rid of the negative energy. So I believe that part of the even the onboarding process, you're doing your hiring and everything else like that. Onboarding, I think, is part of hiring. If you're not talking about career development even at that stage, and understanding where their headspace is, whether they want to be a technician for 5 years, they want to be a technician for 10, 15 years, and then maybe grow into something more. If you're not having that conversation that early, you're doing a disservice to yourself, your store, your business, and like Joe said, your guests. So keep this kind of flow chart in mind when you are talking with your potential new young mechanics to say, hey, what's your aspirations in 20 years? And they go, I want to get a girlfriend. That's not really a great outlook for 20 years.
Well,
But it also
is it though? I mean, look at Ray. I mean, he hasn't made it yet.
Good point.
but they're out there.
Don't tell my wife.
Yeah.
You got to hire the ones that are a few courts shy in the dipstick, but at the same time, you got to have a career path for them too, right? Because they want to fix cars, they want to be around cars, they want to be around fast cars, they want to be around the brand new cars, and by the time they're 25 and they have a brain, it's like, oh, maybe I really want to be a specialist. Maybe I want to be the next Shelby, right? Maybe I want to be the person who designs the next car that beat the Ferrari at Le Mans. Who knows?
Well,
But
Josh,
this
I think this is a great tool here because, and again, you have to, like you said, you have to keep that in the back of the mind because this offers avenues, right? This it isn't necessarily a roadmap, which we want to get to, but this is some destinations that are possible with the right roadmap. And most technicians, they don't, like, to your point, they don't know this. I mean, there's some stuff on here I wouldn't have thought of. A national auditor who used to be a tech. That's not the first thing that comes to your mind when you're talking with a technician, right?
it's interesting when you use it's simple nomenclature. Like we're talking about what a title of a person is in a business. Just being able to show them that that title exists and that somebody with technician status in their history exists means that it's like it takes that dream away and it puts it into a realistic a place that they can go. It's no longer, yeah, that's never going to happen. It's like, it happened. It happened at least once, which means it can happen again, right? Is there few and far between of each at the very far right of the screen? Yes, there is few and far between. But that's because the people that make it to that echelon of business are few and far between. It doesn't matter whether they've read technician or not. That to get to a point where you are a group director, a platform director, overseeing 20 to 30 stores on your own, that is an individual who has done so much work in their life, not just on the bench, but so much work to grow themselves, grow their knowledge base, grow their capability, remove negative people from their lives, delegate things that they're not specifically capable of doing to a team that's capable of doing it, learning all the things that is required in leadership to get to that point, right? That is a special individual. But the stuff from the just off to the right and down, just about anybody can get in there with the right amount of work ethic.
So just can you kill the
sorry, yeah.
share? No, that's all right. So, all right, everybody. We've got a great mix of text and everything else on here, and I want to know, like a show of hands, who has a written plan. All right, and Josh, take over for a second. I got a malfunction.
I'm not seeing any hands raised here.
Ray, yes, I will. I'll put the graphic in the group chat once we're done, because that way I don't screw anything up.
All right, sorry, I had a major malfunction and lost all power here for a second. I'm sorry. So a show of hands, who has a written plan for their technicians? Zach, you're going like this. I don't, and I want to learn from this today. I don't. I had something. I shot it over there earlier to Josh today. It's not easy to do, and ownership a lot of times doesn't want to enact it, because what happens with a career path for technicians? At the beginning, there's unapplied labor. At the beginning, there are expenses, and sometimes ownership doesn't see those expenses as what it is: training. They don't see that as a training expense. They see it as just pure expense to the bottom line, and they don't see the future in it. And that's really, really terrible. It's a poor mindset to have. So now I want to hear from some of the technicians, and guys and ladies, raise your hand if you want to talk, because we're gonna spice this up a little bit. But I want to hear from some techs who actually, are there any techs on here that actually went through a career path? Not really, right?
By career path, are you asking just the training track, or are you asking, do we have any idea of how to get beyond once we've achieved master technician? How do we move beyond that? Is that what your question is?
Did your shop lay something out for you when you first started? Did they lay something out and say, not just piggybacking off the manufacturer bullshit that says once you do this, you're going to get here, but did the shop offer up a written path? We need you to do this, this, and this, and then this is going to happen, and then this and this, and then after that, to your point, what happens then? Did that happen for anybody?
Not for me, no.
How about you, Marshall? Did it happen for you? No. Yeah, I don't think it happens all that often.
You pretty much you have to pave your own way, just like Zach did. You know, when I went from tech to service manager to try it out, I decided ultimately it wasn't right for me personally, and then I went back to the floor. But that being said, we had to. I don't want to put words in Zach's mouth, but I'm pretty sure we had to blaze our own way, and just have to be in the right place at the right time and talk to the right people and make it happen.
See, and how unfair is that?
If
you go to corporate America, 9 times out of 10, there's a path, right? Especially back in the day, there was a path you would take. Look, you work this hard and you're out of the mailroom. You do this and this and this, you're out of here, you're out of there, out of there. We don't do that in the car business, and that's an epic fail on our part. Josh, when you're coaching the techs, and you have technicians that are hungry and they want to know what's next, how did you coach them through talking to because this is, again, we want to do actionable and specific things that people can walk into on Monday. How did you coach them through discussing the career path with their manager? It's kind of leading from behind, because your manager's not providing you something. Might be a great place to work, but your manager's not providing you something.
I asked, quite literally. There is no, in that portion of it, there is no special sauce. Most of them had never had a conversation with their leader in any way, shape, or form about what the next steps are. Almost all of them, I would say 95% of them, never had a career development conversation of any kind. Now I have to stipulate a little bit, like Russell was trying to clarify the difference between the technical development at their brand versus their career development as a whole. There is two there. They all had conversations about technical training in some way, shape, or form, but it was never about what they wanted to do as a technician, only what the brand or the store wanted as a progression. One of the, like that screen share that I said earlier, and that I think that Wendy put in the chat, that requires a significantly different set of learning pieces, right? You need to learn leadership, you need to learn communication, you need to learn all kinds of things to grow outside of the dealership. But inside the dealership, there is still learning paths, or slightly different learning paths to go in each way, because we in 10 mil, we had a discussion about, is the generalist going to die, the bumper to bumper technician going to die, because how many different systems are in a car. To be successful on your pay plan, to be successful in your store, do you need to be a specialist, or can you still be a generalist? I think that conversation, understanding that that specific technician may or may not be adept enough to be a generalist, or they have to be a specialist because they are one trick pony is the easiest phrase to use, but the specialists are the ones that tend to make the most money for themselves, because they go, okay, I get really good at transmission work, so it doesn't matter what transmission in the brand I work on, I'm really, really, really good at it, whether it's pulling them, putting them back in, rebuilding them, diagnosing them, whatever the case may be, but getting really good at transmissions. That's the easiest example I can have. None of them had that conversation. None of them had the conversation with their lead to say, hey, I really like doing engine work. Can you funnel me all of the engine work? And can I do all of the training that the brand can provide? And any training that I can find that is relevant to engine work, can I also do? That is also a conversation that is few and few far between, specific to training and career development as the technical side of things. Brands as a dealership tend not to send people to training that isn't brand training. For example, I only recently learned that there was technician conventions specific to training that wasn't technical. ASTE happened this past fall, and I found out because I started talking to another Canadian, Jeff Compton, who is a very bitter technician, has his own podcast, The Jaded Mechanic. He's bitter. He's getting better over time. Now that he's been doing podcasting for a little bit and he's talking to more people and opening up the dialogue for himself, he is no longer nearly as bitter almost a year into it as he was a year ago. But that's because he started to talk to technicians outside of the dealership world. He started to consume content and training from things outside of the dealership world and broadening his mindset. That is something that I think, if you're in a dealership and you're leading a team in a dealership, technical training from your brand isn't the only training that your technician should be doing. Doing training from outside sources. Now, I would highly suggest that you vet it and you do your due diligence, because there's some really shit stuff out there.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, though. It's very difficult. Managers, and I'm talking from the manager side here. We don't have a lot of access, or I should say that we don't have a lot of knowledge about where to find technical training outside of the manufacturer to advance their career. All right, I'm in for it. I don't know where to go. Where do you go for that?
Easiest place to go is with a grain of salt, look at the technician forums, because that's where they're the most plugged. Go to Facebook and spend an hour a week on Facebook looking for technician forums around your brand. It'll also give you eyeballs open to some of the bullshit that is being said about your store and your brand online by technicians. You're going to consume probably 98% of the shit that they shovel on there, because there is a lot of it. Right. They really love to bash you guys, especially their bosses on the forums, but because they are all there in large numbers, the learning centers and the online groups and everything else are plugging the shit out of their product and their services on those forums. So you can start to find them on there. That is the easiest place to find. Then it's searching for it. The big thing that because I still have technician in my profile on Facebook, I still get fed all kinds of ads from all kinds of places. ADAS training and anything to do with radar, sonar, camera-based cruise control. There is lots of mobile training going on right now, and they're trying to get technicians away from the dealership. Anybody that's got any alignment experience is going, hey, I can do this on my own for myself outside the dealership, take my experience and do it for myself. You want to avoid those places, obviously. But similar ones that aren't trying to pull them out are trying to train them.
All right. I like that. And I think we need to, if anybody knows of an organization that does that, offers that outside, put it in the chat, because I think it would be handy to have. Might not want to go on there. Hey, Robert Charbonneau, please go ahead and and let us know your thoughts on this. And then I want to talk about another aspect of why dealerships don't roll this out, and the fact that they have to fucking man up and do it. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I think as far as training over the years and all the dealerships I've been involved with and stuff, we typically looked for high school programs that were pretty developed, or the trade schools, you know, the tech colleges for automotive. And, you know, those became the quick lube people. And if they had skills and had the abilities and the knowledge, you know, then we grew them into technicians and had, you know, a roughed out step plan that you could make it in 3 years. You know, where you had to have the manufacturer certification. Some, you know, some required ASE. A lot of the manufacturers don't do ASE now because they really want their techs just specialized on their manufactured product and not have the skills to go anywhere because they're certified ASE technicians. Now, I was an ASE certified technician in 3 categories before I left the technician field and went into the service management. But that was, I took that first ASE certification because I was going to get more money if I had ASE certification. And that was in 1969, the second wave of ASE certifications. And I had it in drivability, AC, and suspension, you know, and I did that so that I could get some more money, you know, so it is a motivator. If you know, if you get this, you get this.
So, okay, the motivator is just that, but that leads me into what I wanted to talk about. Is that motivator pins the dealership down, and dealerships are notoriously afraid of commitment. If they commit to a path with the technician, and then they don't follow through on it, that's a problem. And dealerships don't like to do that in general. I didn't like to do that. And again, I'm as honest as they come with this stuff. I didn't like to do it because, you know, what if I can't fulfill on something? What if business changes? What if this? What if that? So I didn't do a lot of that. And that's not fair to anybody. I get it, but that's one of the reasons why. So I think dealerships have to be prepared to step up and make the commitment to their people. Don't be vague. And I have that vague program. Well, you're going to work in Express for a little bit, and then you're going to do this, and then you're going to do that. No, be fucking specific. All right. Be specific and live up to it.
I think a lot of them, I've worked with a bunch of different groups. One of the stores I'm working with right now and have been for 4 years, you know, we've developed, you know, with a roughed out plan of how much you can make if your productivity and certifications that you get from the Nissan manufacturer. But over the years, in 4 years, we've developed 7 master techs, you know, from where to the point that the owner is going, okay, we got too many master techs. And I go, you know what? You just listen to yourself. What did you just say? Said we got too much master tech, so let's keep finding work for them. Yeah. You know, because 4 years ago you had 1 master tech, and you kept losing your technicians. You know, now you got 12 technicians. You know, and the ones you grew all of your master techs. You know, so it's just having those plans. I worked with another dealer group that, you know, I had a contract with them for 4 years. And they would not commit to anything. You know, he goes, you know, people don't tell us what they need to make. You know, I go, well, people know what they need to make. So you're not doing anything. And, you know, luckily, you know, I didn't work for the guy. I had a contract with him, but we were losing people. They would stay there 2 years, but not make any more money. And again, get some of the manufacturer certifications. And then they would leave and go to someplace because they were making $17 an hour. And what they should have been making at that stage was 25. Well, you're not going to keep those people. We were just a training ground.
Yeah. And you know, that's, you know, if you do have a written process and you actually commit to it, you got to make sure you commit to changing it with the times too. Because if you just leave it like that and it's not it's a stagnant document, you're going to run into some problems. Hey, Ryan, please go ahead.
Morning, Joe.
Morning, man.
Yeah, no, a lot of the stuff is very good points. And I think, Josh, you hit the nail on the head with that path and time and everything like that. So that's fantastic. But, I think the biggest thing too is when we are hiring these people, like you say, with this onboarding and so forth, that, we have those conversations with them up front about what we need from them and then holding them accountable. I tend to try to have I try to talk to one technician a day, whether it's 10, 15, 20 minutes or whatever the case is, and figure out, what's going on with them, and then make your rounds obviously through the day too, right? Just talking to everybody, but at least spend, 10 to 15 minutes with everybody, and then prepare for them to, have those reviews, even if it isn't about the money, because they're at a very high level. Sometimes that review just means more to them to understand where they are and where they're going. But what I don't hear a lot of people talking about is finding the technician that is standing out, right? That does have that management potential. And obviously, one of the guys that you have on the call, we noticed that early on that he did have some management potential. So we took him off the field and moved him up through the ranks, and obviously he's in some management status now, but learning it and also us keeping an eye on it, I think is just as important versus just sitting there and saying, where are we at with this, or, so forth.
Well, I like the idea of, I'm glad that you brought up the idea of actually recognizing talented individuals, because we do it all the time with advisors, right? And on the variable side, they do it with salespeople. How often do we do it with techs? Hey, this guy's got real leadership potential. And then how often do we nurture it with technicians?
Well, and that's exactly it, Joe. And I think the problem is sometimes, we see it, but then also being able to have those uncomfortable conversations when the people aren't making it, right? Like whether it's a technician wanting to go all the way up into a GM role, right? Or whatever they might want to do. But being able to say, hey, just because you're good at this doesn't mean you're going to be good at this. You can't mold at some point either, but you also have to see how much they're willing to put in.
No, for sure. Marshall. And then, hey, I'm going to want to, Daryl, you're not going to escape this one. All right. I'm going to want to hear from you. All right. Zach, you're going to have to talk today too, because you've lived this. And everybody, welcome Charles. Charles, I appreciate you coming on board here. I know it's a new deal. Charles is a GM at a Lexus store, so it's great to have general manager representation. And every time I talk about GMs, it's always positive. Charles, don't you worry about that. Okay, they are seriously. You guys are like right above parts people. Okay, no, I'm kidding. Of course. But
Richard needs to speak too. He's his last probably 60 days dealing with his techs and the successes he's had in the last 60 days.
Who's that?
We had a Richard needs to be speaking too, because his successes, we were talking, Marshall and Richard and I were talking for about an hour and a half yesterday, and Richard's having some kick-ass successes in the shop. He's got the shop the way he likes it, the way he wants to go. He's down to one nut that needs to be cracked, instead of a whole shop full of disorganization. And it sounds like he's happy where he is. I wanted him to share it. And two, Marshall's having some serious success. He's hoping to get 3 more trucks under his purview going into 2024. So that requires technician leadership. He's still turning wrenches, like both of them are still turning wrenches every day, but they're leading teams and they're being successful. So the fact that I get to spend a whole lot of time, a whole lot of air time, and a whole lot of talk time with these two, especially these two, because they're still wrenching, not to mention all the other wonderful folks I get to spend a lot of talk time with, but these two are absolutely crushing it and still turning wrenches. So
okay, well then we're going to want to hear from you, and I need to see some hands up. Marshall.
Yeah, so we're here for something actionable, and I feel like most of us have plans for our technicians to stay technicians. We bring them in as an apprentice. We tell them, hey, this is what you got to do to get to level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, become master, yada yada. I think we all have that. I'm pretty sure everybody in here has some plan for their technicians to stay techs. But are we teaching them how to do? We're not setting them up to be foreman eventually. If you're going to be a foreman, you need to know how the advisor stuff works. You need to learn some basic leadership skills and start nurturing some leadership skills. But you could very easily, for 1 hour a week, 1 hour a month, put something into plan to do some cross training with a parts person, to do some cross training with an advisor. You could pick 2 of your more senior techs on the floor, give them 1 hour a week, and have them working with the parts people and have them putting parts on work orders and having them work with the advisor and writing up work orders and doing walkarounds in the drive on. You know, these are real actionable things and real skill sets that they need to learn if they're going to progress, if they're going to be more than technicians.
So who now, you know, those of you guys in shops, you know what? No, fuck it. Steve Kill, take yourself off mute. All right, Steve. Yep. Steve's a shop foreman at our Subaru store, and he came up through our program. It wasn't a written program, but he came up through our program. And Steve, would you be interested in what Marshall just said about learning how to write up customers and learning things that are beyond the technician role? Would that be something that interests you as a technician?
Oh, 100%. I mean, we have.
Well, fuck you. You're gonna turn a wrench. But anyways,
no, I mean, because like there's the meetings that they have for the advisors on Tuesdays, and I try to make sure I show up to that. And obviously, like, it's a big benefit. Like Marshall said, like it gives you a totally different perspective of what goes into everything, other than just once you get an RO dropped on your hands and you go, yeah, okay, go fix it. Having that background knowledge, even if it's minimal, of knowing what goes on behind everything you do, can help give you a different approach to how you even work on a car.
So, you know, and Marshall, I wrote that down, man. We plan on a service manager's goal is once he gets a tech is to make sure he keeps that tech, right?
Yeah.
And you're right. We do plan on keeping our technicians, and we train them to maintain them as technicians. And I mean, and you know, unless techs have shelf lives, right? You know, because of for a variety of reasons, but it's hard. You're not sitting behind a desk all day. You're working. I mean, you got shit and everything draining on you during the winters, and you know, lifting things. It's tough, man. You got to constantly keep up. So we need to realize that shelf life and plan accordingly for that as you know, because we still have to grow after our techs achieve master status. To Russell's point, you know, Sarge's point, what's the plan then?
Yeah. And so like where I'm working at, our technicians are making master at like 6 to 8 years. That's nothing. If you come in there and you're 20 years old and you're master at 26, then what? You see what I'm saying? You got a lot of life to live. So what I'm doing in my apprenticeship is I teach all of the service advisor stuff. So my apprentices, when they finish their apprenticeship and they go to the second level, they know how to write a work order front to back. They know how to talk to the customers and interface with customers, because I want them to, in 6 to 8 years, when they're master, or if they don't want to, they decide later on, hey, I don't want to be master, I want to be service manager, that they have the abilities and the skill sets that are needed to go to foreman, go to service advisor, and go to service manager, or whatever path they decide. They already have the skills to do that. And that's something that it's not written down at my company. It's not a set up plan. So that's something actionable that you guys all have the power in here to do.
I was always afraid to make technicians into advisors or service managers. And again, and this is as real as it gets, I was always afraid to do that because I viewed them as not having people skills, and shame on me for that. You know, shame on me, because there's a lot of them that don't. But there's,
you know, Joe, the sad part is, a lot of them viewed you the same way.
Fucker.
I still do.
You laugh. That's not wrong.
No, it's not. It's not. And
I genuinely believe it's not because of you or leadership, and it's not because of the technician themselves. I think it's because there is a lack of education for it.
Well, right.
Because
that's
one of the things that we know is that education tends to mean more money. The more education you get, the more money you make. But it's very specific. If they only get technical training, they only understand the technical aspect of repair. They don't get a broader spectrum of what the store means, what it means to be in each role, how much effort is required in each role, what is need to be learnt for each role in order to be successful. Marshall brought up a great point. Cross training allows someone to have a much more eye-opening experience. If I recall, Sarge many moons ago got the opportunity to write service because I think he was on the injured list, so to speak, for a short period of time. And they were able to give him an opportunity to write service, and he touts it as an eye-opening experience. Just writing service for a short period of time allows a technician to understand that being a service advisor is the hardest role in the store. It's the hardest role in the store, period, bar none, period, bar none.
Yeah, you
And
get your ass
being
kicked
able
by
to have that-
everybody, but you do. You get your
It
ass kicked by
is.
everybody. But my point is that one of the reasons why I believed that that techs wouldn't make good service managers, wouldn't be good advisors, is because, like I said, because I viewed them as not having people skills. Well, let's take a step back. Why the fuck don't they? Why aren't they trained on people skills? Why aren't they included in that? Well, you know what? That's because we didn't do it. I didn't do it. I failed in that area. And I'm trying massively to correct that these days. But we don't recognize that. We get blind to our own prejudices, and we just don't do it. No, man, that guy's not gonna work out. He's a fucking tech. Are you kidding me? That's wrong. That's so wrong of us. Hey, Daryl, go ahead, man.
Hey, good morning, guys. So I don't have anything written in process. What I do, and that's a great point. I think I'm actually gonna write something and put a process together for it. But what we do, man, we talk about advancement daily in the shop, and you know, everybody wants to grow, everybody wants to advance, and we got to know that. You know, when I was a technician in the shop, I knew I wanted to become a master tech or become a shop foreman or become a manager. So with my guys in the shop, my shop foreman, I include him. I have a manager meeting every week, and I include him in a meeting. So he feels empowered and he's able to make decisions and contribute to the success of our department. The same thing with our express guys. You know, our productive express guys. I move them over to the main shop, and we talk about it daily. You know, hey, you did 35 hours last week. You know, I need you to do 40 consistently. My technicians, we get on training. We have a career path as far as, you know, you get ASCs. You do your GM certification training, you move up, you get more money, you get raises. And if you show leadership, I mean, eventually our shop foreman is going to be a service manager. We're going to need another shop foreman. We might need a team leader. But I don't have anything on paper, but these are things we talk about daily. But I think if I put on paper,
so Daryl, if you don't have anything on paper, why not?
That's what I need to put it on paper.
Right? We all do. We all do. I put a rough draft of something I'm working on in the chat. Daryl, it's a Word document. Guys, feel free, steal it, bastardize it, whatever you want to do. It's not finished, but at least it's something better than what we had.
Correct.
So, but you got to write it down, right?
Yeah.
What happened if you got hit by a bus tomorrow? Who's
think
picking up your culture on that, you know?
You're right, and that would be amazing. Like I never had it when I was coming into the industry. So imagine having that on paper, like, hey, Daryl, this is what you do when you're advanced. Like, I think it's a great something I'll add to my tools.
Wow, nice job, Ray. And Daryl, thank you. I appreciate that. AJ, that's actionable, right? Specific and actionable. That's what we're looking for. Thanks for reminding us of that, Marshall. AJ, please go ahead, and Joshua, jump in anytime you want, because these guys, they need it.
Right now, just a little tidbit for a carrot for the leaders. 5% of my 500 techs who have submitted in the survey are over 150 grand a year. All of them have at least level 3 if your brand goes level 3 or higher on your lists of technical training. The ones making over 150 grand a year, I've got 5 of them who have all of their ASEs and went to ASTE this year and are actively seeking additional training above and beyond their technical training, because at the level that they're at, getting into those final pieces to be the quote unquote doctor of the house with the training of their brand is really hard to do to finish out. So they're looking for training elsewhere. So your 5%ers right? Your 5%ers are seeking training elsewhere on their own. If you're not having those conversations with them, they're going to do stuff on their own that may or may not be beneficial to you. And they're doing it without your knowledge because most of them don't think that you care. I had those five I know 5 of them personally. I have the conversation with them personally. They don't have any conversation with their leader. They think it's a waste of time.
You nailed that, Josh. You nailed that, Josh, because I do tons of training for leadership stuff through colleges after hours, and I do that without any help from my management team, and because I'm looking to level up. I'm at that level. I'm exactly where you're talking.
That's great. And Marshall, I mean, your drive is incredible, and your desire to give back is incredible. You should write that down. You're a very talented writer. You should write that down. You should get that in paper. That's your action. That's your specific action. Write down what you want to do with these guys. What do you do? What's your process? Write it down. AJ, go ahead.
Hey, everybody. Can you hear me?
We can.
Good. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
This is a great conversation. Let me preface it by saying I never turned a wrench. And when I became an advisor and a service manager, I needed to learn how to communicate with technicians. It's not something that management or even service advisors are taught how to do. And there ends up being a lot of the issues that go on in shop can really be fixed if the communication between the service advisors and the technicians can be fixed. And it's something that I had to learn. But one of the things that I'm noticing out in the field is many dealerships are looking to hire service managers, but the prerequisite for a lot of owners right now is that they have to formally be a tech. There are a lot of dealerships out there are looking to hire new service managers, but again, I want somebody that was a tech. So it's turning around a little bit, that they want somebody that understands the shop and how that works. A couple of other things to talk about is the reason why technicians are probably not talked to about moving into a management role is because, quite frankly, let's face the facts, is that a lot of managers don't want to lose a productive set of hands on the drive.
Absolutely.
In the shop.
Absolutely.
And because now when you lose a productive set of hands in the shop, and we all know how difficult it is finding techs. Now it's like fighting that whole fight, but it's like we're being very, very short-sighted when we're looking at it, because some of the best service managers that I have had the pleasure of working with and service advisors were formerly techs. I think it was Marshall that said it. Cross-train your people, not only in parts. Think about how much efficiency you can get out of your shop if you put fast-moving parts out in the shop and taught a technician to build them out. Think about how much time you fix not waiting at the parts department, at the parts counter. It's the biggest waste of time of any technician. It's 2 things: walking back and forth to the parts department and standing there waiting for a part to be built out, and 2, walking back and forth to have the advisor sell the job. Those are the 2 biggest waste of times of technicians. Cross-train technicians how to be advisors. Joe, you said it. Your shelf life of a technician is very very short. It's like a baseball pitcher. At some point in time, you're going to lose your shoulders and you're going to lose your elbows.
Yeah, then you turn into a relief technician, a reliever, right? You're going for the save on a job. I mean, really, right?
Right, and it's just one of those things. To teach your technicians how to write service, and it does a couple of different things. Not only are you preparing them for down the road when they can't turn a wrench anymore, and let's face it, that's a reality. But also, you have advisors right now that go on vacation. You have parts people that go on vacation. How great would it be to be able to plug and play somebody from the shop into one of those spots, and now you don't miss a beat? So, I mean, I could talk about this.
There's a subtle challenge for that.
I'm sorry.
There's a subtle challenge for that. The reason there's a subtle challenge to that many don't necessarily associate that you need to, as a leader, think about it. Cross-training is awesome. I love it. It needs to be done. But the technicians, more specifically people who are willing to take on cross training are usually people pleasers and fixers, and they also tend to be empaths. And the reason why I say that is when you have a person in your shop that is the go-to person, they may not be the shop leader, they may not be the shop foreman, but they might be the go-to person. They might be the go-to person not just for the comebacks or the never lefts or the really challenging shit. They might be the go-to person for the Monday morning, I just broke up with my girlfriend. They might be the go-to person for, I think my wife's going to leave me. They might be the go-to person for, I'm feeling really down today. I thought about killing myself this weekend. They might be that person, that emotional, that empath. They are going through burnout faster than you can possibly imagine. And you're losing technicians to burnout via the emotional dump of the rest of the shop.
Well, the other thing too, Josh, and
someone,
you do
be mindful that they're capable of absorbing the shop.
You do bring up a point, but when you look at it and what I'm hearing, you just got a jerk off manager or jerk off people that take advantage of people in your shop.
Says the Jersey guy.
Really, but that's what happens. And you do have people that do that. The key is, and again, to any cross training, is you've got to find the right person. You've got to find the right person that has a mix of social skills, problem solving skills, people that do have empathy for the customer as well as the company and such. It can't just be anybody. It's like a manager. What do they do with managers? Who usually becomes manager? Your best performing advisor. That doesn't make them a great manager. It just means that they can sell the shit out of service. It's the same thing with a technician. You could have the best technician out there that can dispatch work like nobody's business and fix everything that comes on in under the sun. But you stick them in front of a customer and it's just like, oh shit, I don't want them talking to anybody. But that's reality. So the point is, when it comes to the cross training, I think the one big issue that management has is that we don't plan for the unexpected. And one of the things that always is unexpected, and it should be expected, is again, vacations, sick time off, and then subsequently cross-training the right people to fit in those spots. And you have to look at that. So you got to find the right people. But that's enough for me. Thanks very much for having me, guys.
AJ, you're the best. I appreciate you. Richard. Now, Richard, where are you from exactly? I don't recall.
I'm from Cochrane, Alberta, Canada.
Oh, fuck. No, I'm kidding. What do you work at a dealership, a heavy line? What do you?
Yeah, I work for right now. I'm a GM at a GM dealership.
Okay.
So I'm working shop foreman at a GM dealership.
Okay. Well, we definitely want to hear from you, Richard. Please, let's go.
So, right now, as a working shop foreman, I can tell you right now, this is where you got to have conversations with your technicians. Not everybody's cut out to be, to come off the bench, honestly. Some people will be extremely straightforward with you and say, I don't want to do that. I'm having a hard enough issue right now because we just brought Chameleon to our dealership. So my techs are doing video inspections now. And I have technicians who have blatantly, straightforward, I don't want to talk on a video. I'm like, well, this is a skill you have to learn. If you need assistance with it, I'll give you help on it. But this is a life skill you should have. You should be able to talk to strangers. You should be able to hold a conversation with people. But again, it takes the right person to move them off the bench, right? You can't just grab anybody and move them off the bench and cross-train them. Yes, it's great if they step up and want that, but a lot of technicians, when they come in, they want to have some sort of appreciation, and they want to get paid. They want to get paid for their time. That's the biggest thing, right? Warranty times right now from the GM standpoint are they're fucking horrible. They're not getting any better.
Oh, it's a family show, man. Watch your fucking language.
But so right now,
fucking Canadians,
especially with the UAW, when they went on strike, we didn't feel so much of the effects up here in Canada, but we're starting to feel the trickle down effect now of that. But techs just want to be appreciated, right? I mean, you have to have conversations with them, and not performance conversations or anything like that. You just have to have a one-on-one conversation with them and treat them like they're a human being, other than just the hours that you're selling in their bay. You know, that's most of my techs, that's all they want. They just want to have a chat. They want to talk to me. They don't want to know, like, necessarily, they all know where their hours are at. You don't have to have a chat about that. They know when they've had a shitty week. You don't have to bring any of that crap up. They know when they're excelling, and they know when they're in the shit. They just want to have a conversation about how their week went, how their weekend went, where they're at. But you got to have those conversations with your technicians, and then find out which ones want to grow past the bench, because not all of them do. Some guys want to turn wrenches until the day they retire, and then they'll roll their toolbox into their garage at home and work from home. A lot of guys don't like to get to be technicians because of the passion that they have. So you have to have the conversation with your techs in order to find out who you can grow, who you can cross-train, and then offer them those opportunities. Yeah, service sells the shop time. That's their job, to sell the shop time. And I get it from a manager standpoint. It is really, it's really hard to to put your racehorse out to pasture, so to say, right? Like,
yeah, for sure.
You gotta, if you don't grow your technicians internally, and you don't give them that opportunity, especially the ones that you have the conversations with, they're gonna leave. They're gonna go find somewhere else to work, and they're not gonna give you the time of day. They're gonna turn around, they're gonna give you their notice, and they're gonna roll their toolbox out the door and go somewhere else if you don't give them that opportunity.
Agreed.
So, real quick, Richard, one of the things that you said that we've talked about at 10 mil, and we've talked about offline as well, that you do, I know Zach does, I can't remember who else brought it up. I think it was Ryan. I want Ryan to say what it is he says when he talks to his technicians at least once a day, and want to hear that, but more specifically, just a tidbit, your actionable piece. When you are talking to a technician, don't ask them how their day was, their week was. Don't ask them how their weekend was or whatever. Be very, very, very specific. Ask them, hey, Jerry, how was your weekend away at the cottage with your wife and kids in Muskoka? How was, I know you were working on that red Corvette yesterday that you were having a challenge with. Did you figure it out? I haven't seen the work order yet. Yesterday, I saw you talking with Joe. He wasn't feeling so great. Is there anything that I can help with? Don't be bland, because it's disingenuous, and it will feel that way. Even if you are trying to be helpful, and even if you are trying to be asked those questions and have a conversation like Richard's saying, be very, very specific, because it means you're listening. And like Sarge says, your silence speaks volumes, and being bland is just as silent.
That is solid. And I saw Ray shaking his head on that too. Be specific in your conversations with the text, because again, guilty. Hey man, how's the day going? What the fuck is that? And I've said it 100 times, 1,000 times. Hey, how's your day going? Be specific. I like that a lot. And Sarge, when I'm having a crappy week, I want to know my job isn't on the line. Your silence speaks. You know what, Sarge? When I'm having a crappy month, I want to know my job's not on the line. So what you're saying resonates with me very, very strongly. I really, really appreciate that. Hey, Zach, go ahead, and then Ray, and then we'll probably have to wrap it up. Although Ryan, I do want to follow up on that, on Joshua's request to hear what your conversation is. You can just type in the chat too, what your conversation is with those guys that you talk to. Okay.
Absolutely.
Fucking Ryan. I tell you what, Ryan has not stopped fucking badgering me in private conversations about why Eric left. And he's brutal. He's absolutely fucking brutal. Go ahead. Zach, go ahead, man.
Hey, I think so. I'm pretty sure Joe called me out because of where I came from.
Fuck yeah.
As a master technician, started as a loop tech or whatever. And I feel that I'm slightly unique because I've been managing people since I was 16 years old. A grocery store that I worked at in high school. And that put me in a unique position to have experienced that before. And I knew that I could do it from a young age. So I decided when I was an apprentice to vocalize that I wanted to run a service department one day, and communicated that to those people who were in charge of decisions like that. And what that did for me was I stood out from other people, and I got extra training on the side. Probably weird for Ryan when he was my service manager for a minute when he's fucking with my Reynolds access because I had different access than other technicians. But I was put in a position to learn on the side while I was wrenching, and then when it came time that I really wanted to make the move, when there was some stuff happening at both of our Honda stores, I was very, very, very vocal about it, and I got my shot, and it was because I asked for it. So I would say even in my position now with my technicians in my shop, I couldn't tell you if one wanted to do something other than be a technician the rest of their life, because no one's actually approached me about it. And I think there is some ownership in the technicians vocalizing what you want.
Yeah, there's ownership there. You're right. I mean, here, it's not all on the manager. Techs need to vocalize, but technicians aren't in a position to vocalize a lot of the time. Because I mean they're production guys, right? They're expected to stay in their stall and fucking work, and I believe it is up to us to find out. Here we could do any insert position here, anybody that works on a team. It is up to the leader of the team to find out what their aspirations are. So we need to do that. You're right. I mean, more vocal techs, you understand it, you get it. They're easier to deal with. We want, we love a guy that says what they want, right? But for those people that don't, it's our job as coaches, as leaders, to get that out of them, and then to sit down and actually do something with them on it, I think. Hey, Zach, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much, dude. Ray Hernandez, let's roll.
Hey, so I got two things. Number one, Sarge, I'm calling you out. You need to speak up here, pal. I see your post. I read your post all the time, you salty son of a biscuit eater. So come on, let's hear what we need to do.
I love Sarge, man. I love him, dude. Let's roll.
I love reading his posts, but he needs to speak up here. So I want to, first thing, I'm calling him out. And as soon as he turns as soon as I raise my hand, he shut his camera off because
stop. Who's a salty son of a bitch right now? Okay, Ray.
All right. And Dealer Pro, Len Buckholz, there he's eating. All right, Sarge, put that plate down. You jumped on this call. You need to voice up. And Len Buckholz company has a deal called it's a technician training deal through Dealer Pro. We need to start looking at that. I'm going to start looking at that because we waste a lot of money training advisors when we don't have service capacity. And you can't sell shit when you don't have capacity. So you go and train your advisors all you want, flush that money down the toilet until you have capacity to sell. There's nothing else, right? Technicians decline, tech count declines, hours per RO decline, et cetera, et cetera. Have one tech too many, hours per RO goes up, et cetera, et cetera. So it's critical. So come on, Sarge, I want to hear from you.
Well, let the man eat, but Sarge, we do actually, and here, I'm not going to call you a salty son of a bitch because there's a lot of us like that on here. But I've often read your stuff and I've often thought, man, if I had that guy on my team, would his attitude be like this? Or not attitude, but would his thoughts be like this? Because you got fucked over a lot of times. And would what we're talking about today, would it have made a difference to you in your career and if it would have, and if it didn't, what would have made the difference? And it's, I'm talking like it's too late for you. It's not. I apologize. I don't mean it like that.
Well, I'm up at the OEM now, and so I don't know what a dealership would have to do to get me back. The What would have made a difference for me is I made GM World Class Tech in 4 years. Does that mean I was a world class tech in 4 years? No, I didn't.
What's the
have the
typical?
knowledge.
Let's get a frame of reference there. What's a typical time frame that a GM world class tech takes? Is it 8 years or what is it?
Depending on the guys, I've heard anywhere from 10 to 17 years.
And you did it in 4. So fantastic. Great job.
So, that's pushing, that's being book smart. That's not so much being,
For sure.
That's being able to follow a manual.
Mhm.
But, I feel like at 10 years, I was actually had the skills, the capability to be what my title said that I was. So, at 10 years, I've been working hard to advance the skills. But then the question is, what's next? And the reality is when I talk to my leadership and, when I would ask what's next is the next car in front of my toolbox. That's, we've got to, if you got somebody like me, help me build new techs, give me some kind of role besides just fixing the next car, because I'm solving the next car and I'm going broke doing it. So, I'm thinking, what can I do to improve the income? What can I do to help build my team? I got a team of 4 guys that are 2 years or less in the industry, and then there's me. So, what kind of work is a person going to get with 10 years experience and 4 guys that have 2 years or less? They're going to be drowning in hard issues. So I was going broke. So what do we have to do to work together? Well, number one, let's have a conversation. Listen to me, talk to me. Let's work out together. Like Richard was saying, going and talking to his people and figuring out what each one of them wanted. I thought I wanted to be service manager. So let's talk about what has to go, what the service manager does. Let me, learn, let me shadow for a little bit. Maybe I'll realize, hey, I don't want to do that, but I do want to be a mentor. I do want to train guys. Just I don't know what goes on in the office, so it's time to, have a conversation to learn that it doesn't happen. It hasn't happened, at least at every place that I've worked. I got a real bad attitude. I was like Josh was saying about Mr. Compton. And Mike Baldwin challenged me on it one day, and I recognized in him
I remember
me.
that.
And so I tried. And you know what? It did make a huge difference. It made a difference in my production. It made a difference in my attitude. It made a difference in my joy coming to work. But I was recognizing problems. Sal Sedano challenged me to write about it. So I started writing about it, and I got to thinking, I'm telling other people to go talk to their managers. What have I done? So I went and asked my manager for a meeting. I offered to take him out to lunch. Wouldn't do it. And that was when I realized that it was time to give up at that shop. I went to another. I tried. I would go in and I would talk to the manager, and he would spend 45 minutes telling stories about his growing up on the farm and everything. But did he hear me? I don't know. It never turned into anything actionable. So, when it's a one-way conversation, what are we really developing? What are we accomplishing? If one side walks out of the meeting feeling like nothing was heard, we're going to end up losing people. So I have a lot of frustrations I wish I knew how to fix, but I don't.
Well,
so
I think
that's where having these kind of conversations is helpful to me. Listening to Richard, listening to Josh, taking part in 10 mil, coming into this meeting, listening to y'all talk. I know more about just listening to y'all talk, know more about running a dealership than I ever learned as a technician, because nobody talked to me, nobody engaged. I was the talent, but
Yeah.
you don't want the talent getting out of the shop, so don't educate them. That's the attitude.
I love the fact that you put listen. I wrote down one thing here. Listen to them. If I got a tech that wants to spend time with me, I need to fucking pay attention. Listen to them. As you're creating a career path, listen to them. Josh, I'm going to let you talk and then we'll close it out because we got to be respectful of everybody's time.
I think Sarge speaks for probably 80% of the technician base. Everyone that has come into coaching has had one gripe or another, but they all gripe about leaders. Whether it's justified or not is irrelevant. Whether it's justified or not is irrelevant is a key takeaway there, because what they feel, and this is a big thing because 96% of your technicians are men. 96% of most of what they feel is based on a truth of some description. And if you are providing truths to them that make them bitter, resentful, distasteful, don't want to train, don't want to help, don't want to be part of the team, don't want to produce, don't want to do anything, it's leadership. And captains go down with the ship for a reason. And the reason being is you win or you lose because of leadership. You can have a great team, but if you got a shitty coach, you're not going to win. I keep preaching it over and over again. High value leaders change lives. And if it comes from the shop, your shop is going to be hustling. That's why Richard's shop is moving the way it is, because he cares. And not only does he care, he's talking to them and he's listening. That is one of the biggest keys to anybody that I've ever talked to with regards to mechanics, to leaderships, to dealerships that are winning. Leaders win when they listen, when they understand what their team needs to be successful. The team becomes successful. Period. Leaders listen more than they talk. Way, way more than they talk. And it's not even close. The 20% that I've talked to that are making so much money for their teams, their averages from the survey data, there is a significant difference between leaders who are winning and leaders who are not. It's dramatic by technician. You have when I see an average income by technician through the survey and it's over $70,000 per tech versus a store with an average income that's under 50, that's a big nut difference. And you can imagine the difference in mental state of the techs in the shop where the average is over 70 versus under 50.
Yeah, for
Considering the national average, now this takes into every city and metropolis center in America as a statistic, but the average minimum income, the cost of living income, is $56,000. Some states are significantly lower than that. Some are, and that's single person living. Ray, I saw the wow. That's single person. That's not family. So single person minimum cost of living is $56,000 a year. So if you look at just look at your city, go online, there's all kinds of resources online for your cost of living minimums. Look at it and think about it. If there's anybody in your shop that makes that or less, what is their mental capacity when they walk into work knowing that even if they work 50 hours, produce 60 hours and can't make the cost of living, not including tools, because the cost of living does not include a tool payment or a uniform payment or anything else that goes specifically with being a technician. If they can't make the cost of living, do they actually want to be there, even if they actually want to be there?
Josh, thank you. I appreciate those are heavy words there at the end there. Do they want to be there? If we're not taking care of our team, they won't be there. Everybody, thank you very much. Next week we have another guest host, and we're going to be talking about leadership, but it's not your typical leadership conversation. It's actions. I don't want to talk about philosophy anymore. Philosophy is for fucking dead guys and Socrates, as they say in Bill and Ted's, right? I want to talk about action. I want to talk about real deal things you can put into place. And today's program was absolutely one of them. I think everybody here, and Sarge, mostly you, man, mostly you. I appreciate you and the things you said because it makes a fucking difference. Joshua, man, great job. All the 10 mil guys love it. When you're Joshua, I don't know what your plans are today, and you do this on your own, but if you put together a recap, make sure you blow up 10 mil for their attendance because we love it. We love it. All right, everybody. We'll talk to y'all later.
Hold on. Who's the guest next week?
I'm not talking right now. Goodbye.
Bye.